Hello, everybody. Thanks a lot for joining Marketing Intelligence Live. Marketing Intelligence is a channel that creates content for marketing and media professionals. We have launched various consultancy services as well as a personalized workshop. You can access the same from my link, whichever platform you are on. You can go to my Linktree link and you can go to the specific sections for the consultancy as well as the personalized workshops and accordingly fill your details and we can go ahead with the same. Also, if you want to be a part of the marketing intelligence community and be part of events like this, live events, not only this, also informal events where a lot of people in marketing media are there. So I have basically started a meetups group. So same, you can go to my Linktree link and go to the meetups group section, and you can go there and kind of request to join because we want to keep it a closed door group where only if people will give value, which you will also appreciate, will join and be part of great events and network among the professionals in marketing media. Awesome. So we will start off with a very interesting topic of discussion. So firstly, to all the viewers, a very happy Independence Day. Hope this has been a great day for you so far. And we have the interesting topic on hand is marketing to Gen Z. So let me bring on my panelists and we'll have a great discussion on the same. Firstly, I'll bring on Rebecca. Hi,
Hi,
Rebecca.
Nikhil.
How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Hi. I wish you a happy Independence Day.
You too. You too. Hope it's all going well there for you.
Definitely. Next, we have Vrinda Singh Chauhan. Hi, Vrinda. How are you?
Hi Nikhil, hi Rebecca. I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. I hope both of you are fine too, and a very happy Independence Day to both of you.
You too.
Definitely. Thanks a lot to both of you for joining us for this interesting discussion. It'll be a kind of a longish session, a lot of topics, so we'll just straight on jump into the topics of discussion. What Gen Z really wants within its brands, we'll be discussing a lot of about it, as well as certain campaigns, personal branding tips, how brands can be socially responsible, and various other things. So, awesome. We'll start off with our first topic of discussion is accessibility and inclusivity for brands. So to elaborate on the same, how this particularly works out, I'll start with Rebecca.
Thanks, Nikhil. So actually, I have a slide prepared for this. Could you please show it?
That's
Little further down.
that.
Yep. Great. Thanks. So, with accessibility and inclusivity for Gen Z, I think for this topic, I'll go more in the lines of accessibility. So, the reason I've highlighted this brand, like you can see in the meme there, it's Gucci. Now, when you talk about how Gen Z is approaching, the current segment and how they want their brands to be and how they perceive their brands, the lines between luxury and slightly lesser products, fast fashion and high fashion, everything is kind of getting blurred now. So the previous marketing that you would have that only catered to your luxury segments isn't always applicable to your Gen Z. And it isn't just a case of like an income difference, but more a case of whether they actually want to be part of the brand or not. So to just explain that concept, what I've highlighted here is what Gucci is currently trying to do. Now, Gucci is a luxury brand. It was not a brand that commonly markets to the masses. It was something that was exclusively for affiliate marketing. You had only very rich people and maybe rich youngsters also purchasing it. But now they are kind of pushing the idea that luxury doesn't have to only pertain to one segment, it can be applicable to everybody. And more than that, it isn't just about pushing sales anymore, but building a brand. So what Gucci is doing right now, it's making their brand more accessible through these different techniques. So they've changed their marketing strategy not to just reflect something that's very exclusive, but rather catering to your popular audience right now. this particular picture that's there on screen right now is something that they had launched in terms of a meme itself. So there are brands right now like Gucci and a couple of others who are just making memes on their entire thing because they know that that's something that's more popular among the generation right now. So in this way, they're kind of trying to portray that they are more accessible. They're making luxury more inclusive to people who might not be able to afford it. But in every audience, you do have a couple of outliers who, whether they can afford it or not, might decide, that they might want to make like a one-time purchase. You want to splurge in some place or the other. And Gucci is trying to push that, why not be our brand? If you want to splurge, make it our brand. Because, you don't need things like flowers and stuff to show romance. You need like a Gucci watch. When you got something fancy, you want to show it off. And that's why they're kind of portraying it and bringing out the whole meme culture through it. So this way, I think it's becoming more popular right now among Gen Z brands and among this generation itself. They've reduced most of the prices on their product. You find it more available right now. You have things like knockoffs and stuff also that are happening, which did ruin their sales for a good amount of time. So now they've kind of reduced their price and making it more accessible.
That's right. I'll go to Vrinda, her take on the accessibility and inclusivity approach that brands are taking.
Well, I would agree with what Rebecca is saying, and it's a kind of trend where brands have now released, even if it is a luxury brand, they have released a section where they want people to be an outlier out of the crowd and do something different for their loved ones. And this way, I mean, I think Gen Zs are those. Digitally driven people who more or less keep on exploring stuff online on Instagram, or there are a lot of channels. So this generation basically has now learned a way to communicate with their favorite, or you can say potential brand, and the brands themselves has successfully created a channel of communication, different, and they have classified it into some different types of consumer tribes. So initially the demography which we used to target was like, okay, fine, a section of people from this age group to this age group will be using this, but now we have more explicit demography classification where we
Hmm.
are talking about Gen Z. So Gen Z are that pool of influence, are in that direct pool of influence where they think that buying, using, or reviewing the products is something which is very fancy and it should be incorporated. So they are actually accepting the new trend, and the brands are also going with it. They are going with the flow. They are looking at the Gen Z. They feel that making the product more accessible and at the same time inclusive will kind of attract more and more Gen Zers to their product, and this way they can always lead to increased sales. So this example which Rebecca gave about Gucci, I think this is something which we all can take some good kind of lessons from here, that if you want to make your loved ones feel special, so why not just a Gucci watch being an outlier or being a little different from the crowd. So that's what I feel
That's right.
about accessibility and
That's right.
inclusivity.
So Rebecca, with respect to the tech products, like say for example Canva, you have you could if you talk about accessibility, that would be that they would have it is accessible to somebody's not even maybe a big company or having it is like per user per month and how much he wants to use. So this accessibility factor is being used a lot by the say a product based company so that the product can be used by a larger pool basically. So in this direction, can you like shed some light?
Yeah, so I think when you're talking about pricing models and you're talking about softwares that you want, people of this generation to explore, the freemium model is becoming more popular right now because you're giving them a taste before they actually commit to something. And
Hmm.
in a generation that is so brand conscious, that is very finicky about products and more refined about what their choices are, I would say that, something like this does in fact promote brands. You're not going to commit to a product before you know exactly how it is. So when you talk about Canva, I think, yeah, you have like, some amount of features that you get for free in their normal pricing model. When you're looking to upgrade, you have like a 30-day free thing. Beyond that, you can commit to a little bit. You have things like student discounts that are being introduced, things like, professional discounts that are there for marketers, for teaching professionals, things like that. Even Figma has something similar. So you're expanding the your scope of and your audience of whoever's buying or purchasing your product. More than that, like Vrinda mentioned, right, this entire generation is very digitally focused. People are always voicing out their opinions. So ultimately, if you are voicing out your opinion in this age, you are automatically becoming a spokesperson for a brand. So the more, it's similar to influencer marketing, is except that you have a lot of people who can indirectly become your influencers, just because of the fact that people voice out their opinions more right now, and they have the platforms to do so.
That's right. Um, and Brinda, I think so because like my reference was like say you 15 years ago when you had a Photoshop, it had to be completely downloaded on a system, and that feature that was so expensive that a normal person, like he couldn't create a banner of his own, right? So the
Right.
accessibility you have given with obviously technology, cloud, everything coming in, that
Hmm.
you can make that level. It's just your skill set, right? You have access to all the features, and maybe just if you're buying a user's package, and
Right.
that is kind of attracted a lot of people to come. Like maybe they were not thinking earlier of designing, video editing. Obviously, the I would say social media has also influenced a lot about that, but they explored that because it is accessible to them through the price and a very specific per user per month kind of packages for these kind of SaaS products.
Correct, right. And that is why SaaS products these days are doing magic in the market, because Gen Zers are those kind of people who say that we have our own style, we have our own way of being, and what actually binds them is that what they accept and understand everyone's style. So they are looking for kind of brands who provide them high level of mobilization technology. So when we talk about freemium models, so freemium pictures or freemium platforms give Gen Zers, a kind of motivation to explore themselves, explore every skill which they have. These days I see that like one of the campaigns which we'll be discussing, so people have themselves devised ways of using a product. A person builds a product with a vision, but people that gives that person 10 more reasons of building better product, because they tell them the way how they can use the product again. So there are many kind of functionalities which are involved with the product, and people decided, not the product developer. So this thing has changed quite a lot. People have started using things at their own will, and you can say that Gen Zers are the one, like 45% of them kind of know how to use it in their own way, irrespective of
That's right.
what target or focus that product had made. So
That's
that
right.
is one of the things.
The fear is also not that they are open to trying new things, and also compared to the earlier generation, obviously they're being born into technology and into internet access, and also that has the major factor.
Right.
Brenda, would you like to cover something in inclusivity, like say in cosmetics and all, how it has kind of changed over the last say 10 years?
Well, I would say that Gen Zers are the true generation, because earlier we used to had so limited shade of lipsticks, or even
Hmm.
if you take the example of Barbie dolls, so they had a stigma sort of thing that Barbie doll has to look fair, or the Barbie doll has to look pretty, and the beauty has its own definition. But I think with Gen Z, the definition of beauty has also been revised. Even if we talk about cosmetic products also, so a lot of shades, they have incorporated all sort of culture, custom, and skins colors, body shapes. I think everything is getting into this, where they are trying to incorporate more and more variations and variety. Because I remember, like, there are few Gen Zers who have been rating a product. I think it was some beauty product, and they had actually made it like, this is for male and this is for female. So it was not a beauty product, it was basically a fabric. I don't remember the company. So one of the Gen Z, I think she was 22 years old, and she said that, I really think that things are not unisex. I mean, I think it's absurd that stores and brands split everything into male and female. Why they have to do that? Why such kind of gender biasness or gender differentiation in terms of fabric? So then that fabric company got a lesson from such kind of feedbacks from Gen Z, that now they have to kind of make the environment more inclusive, where they can incorporate all the things together. Because Gen Zers are the one who don't think that such kind of biasness or differentiation should be made between genders or caste or culture or creed. So there is no stereotype now. Now we have individuals, they can experiment in different ways, they can be themselves, they can shape themselves. So that is what you say, that these days brands are trying to, you know identify nomads amongst themselves, just to incorporate this Gen Z generation.
That's right. Rebecca, anything you can think of where a brand has been maybe not pulled up, but has then taken a more inclusive approach?
Yeah, I would say that, like, to go on the same line of cosmetics itself, like Vrinda said, right? Rihanna's newest beauty line called Fenty Beauty has 50 different concealer shades. Now, concealer is something that you put on your face where it matches your skin tone to make it more even, basically. And right now, all other companies have like either a light thing, a dark thing. You have more variations in the lighter skin tones. You don't have so many in the darker or mid, in between sort of thing. And she's launched 50 different ones of these where anybody can basically use it, irrespective of your skin color. So that's a major thing what I wanted to add on to whatever Vrinda said. Apart from this, in terms of inclusive approaches, I would say there are a lot of people and brands who are promoting fashion that is gender fluid, and that doesn't necessarily even have to term for male or female. It's non-binary. It means anybody can wear it. There isn't a stereotype. There isn't anything that has to come in between. There's no classification. So you have brands in fast fashion itself who are currently getting into the space right now, even though they're not there completely. You still have places which are slowly approaching this. I think Levi's is one. I'm yet to see more brands like H&M or Zara or something like that get into the space. But right now you're kind of pushing the idea that anyone can wear whatever they want. You have fashion brands like Vogue, the magazines itself, who are encouraging this sort of thinking right now. And the larger space you have for it.
So vocal around LGBTQ also. They are, Vogue magazine has also, with this Gen Z coming into picture, they have also try to lay some impetus on LGBTQ awareness, and coming up with some Pride Month for the year kind of thing for such kind of community. So with this Gen Z, we are also consistently supporting a class of society which were not supported at some point of time, and they are kind of supporting social justice. So that is one thing I wanted to add to Rebecca. Yeah, Rebecca, you can continue.
Right. I would also say that, these are concepts that are not new. They're not something that wasn't unheard of. You had people who were part of the LGBTQ community way back in, like, even like the great, maybe like boomer generation or Generation X or things like that. Like Vrinda said, this sort of stuff wasn't as vocal back then. It is more now because, like, as everything has progressed, there are things that are coming into, people are becoming more aware of how they should be. In general, I would say the term that a lot of people in this generation use is just be kind. So the whole theme of empathy itself is big right now. And anything that's promoted isn't just because of a trend, it's more because people are learning how to empathize with different communities. And that's why people want to align themselves to a more socially just brand or things like that.
Right.
Right.
And now they have platforms like TikTok and Twitter to vent out their anger whenever they don't feel that brands are really complying with the social justice and things of such sort. So now even brands are fearful of Gen Z. So whenever you have a complaint or
Mm.
something, you just have to say, "I'll tweet it," and the brand says, "No, no, no, we'll definitely take it back or we'll work as you want us to." So things have
That's right.
changed. Yeah.
Yes, yes. It makes brands more responsible in this sense and more secular. So I feel it's a good change. Obviously, it can be used in a negativism, but that is, I would say, that is in everything. So it is, I think, for the better only these changes are being taking place. Great. So we'll come to our next topic. Community-based approach. So basically, Gen Z is more trying to network with other people of a younger age group, and they like to be a part of events which brand offers, so that they can meet like-minded people, generally people who are using the same products or services that are there, so they would kind of have some commonality, so they look forward to meeting new people and networking in that sense. So community-based marketing is being used quite a lot because of the pandemic. Events are not the physical events, but a lot of online events have utilized this, forming a kind of a community. So basically, just establishing that is my target group, and if I make a community with respect to something related, that would kind of help me also in having a loyal audience, basically. So let's start with Vrinda. She can take us through something with respect to this topic.
All right. So, when we talk about community, I would say that it's not precisely a community because I think till the millennials generation, the community terminology was used. Now, brands are more into tribes. And when they say
Yeah.
tribes, they are into microcultures of consumption. So different micro
Hmm.
cultures, they
Yes.
those focused groups, you would say, those consumption focused groups are called tribes. And they think that they those micro cultures of consumptions are connected by Gen Zers interest, their values or their usage. So like you mentioned, that like minded people. So a tribe can be referred to here as a group of people who are connected to another, and they are not even connected to one another, they are connected to a leader whom they really consider as an influencer, and that influencer helps those people to connect with an idea. So that is the entire concept of tribe, which currently the brands are following for our Gen Zers especially. So now if I talk about micro influencing, so they majorly go into, deeper into the niche groups. So I would say that for them it is easy to identify and directly interact with the tribes they are targeting. Now since they have divided them into small consumer group, now they have people who are known as micro influencers, or who are also called as nano influencers. So that is how they have divided their demography. Now when we talk about one of the brands, let's talk about Instagram. Okay, so Instagram has nearly if we talk about influencers, so they have 1.7% of micro influencers, they have 4% of nano influencers, and they have 8% of influencers. So now that is how Instagram is also trying to target their audience with the help of Gen Z. So they are majorly featuring Gen Zs to connect or to relate with Gen Zs. So that is
Hmm.
one of the way where we can see that this micro influencers and nano influencers have come into picture, and they have kind of created tribe culture for the Gen Z generation, which is not really followed by millennials, but Gen Zs are the one who really take interest into these, and therefore they are more into influencer marketing with these tribe and community building. So it is not just a tribe, it is not just a community where like-minded people come together, rather it is a tribe where people are together listening to a leader, and the leader helps them connect to an idea. So that is the concept of tribe or community for Gen Zers, according to me.
That's right. Yeah, I feel with the Gen Zers, the interest based is becoming more because earlier, if you would say demographics when they were made by the marketers, there was a lot of influence on the location, the age, and
Correct.
other things also. But now it's something more as an interest, like even for a 20-year-old, which would be something interesting, like say trekking. Even for a 40-year-old, it could be right. You could connect
Right.
on that
So
thing. So
geographical
yeah,
boundaries have sunken altogether. It's
yes,
no more there. So a 12 year, not 12, I would say a 20-year kid from America and a 20-year kid from India, they can be the part of the same tribe, because they might be
mm,
following that same influencer, and whatever brand or whatever
mm,
ad campaign is going through that
yeah.
influencer, they are highly influenced
They're
by
like
it.
part of a same gaming room, or they
Correct.
could be like kind of for common, like the content they are watching is kind of same, so they connect on that. Yes, yes.
Correct. Yeah.
That's right. So Rebecca, I think you can take us through this community-based marketing approach.
Yeah, so I think you guys have pretty much covered the majority of it. Just to give like an example of the whole thing, like you mentioned, right? Things that used to be separated, or the way that people would have divided, or marketers would have divided groups before, would be on demographics, on age basis, or geographies and things like that. But now it's more based on your interest level. And this is what Netflix is doing right now. What Netflix divides their different audience into are things called as taste communities, which is how they market the different programs, or even the suggestions are based on things that you're interested in. It isn't based on your age, it isn't based on where you live right now, or even what your current job is, or things like that. So I would say, one quote that Netflix itself gave is that a 12-year-old kid watching, something like a dance revolution thing is something that even a 75-year-old could be influenced by the same thing. There are people there are people across the world who are currently incredibly influenced with Korean drama and K-pop, and that was
Right.
something that was ubiquitous only to Korea at one point. People didn't even know about things like that.
Right.
I see like a trend where sooner or later Bollywood itself is also going to catch on to different countries as well. So you can't separate things by geography anymore. And
Right.
this is how communities are formed within the same thing.
So with these communities, they are actually turning their audience into advocates, I would say. So Gen Zers are no more audience; they are now advocates, because their willingness to collaborate with brands have increased quite a lot. They are now interested in product designs and brand campaigns. They want to seek some collaborative opportunities with them. They want to have face to face interactions. So it's not just a digital stimulation for them, they want to physically interact with brands. You can take the
Mm.
example of music festivals. So how the brands now dedicate entire areas to encourage young consumers, and now the concept of hashtag is into picture, so that is creating a social buzz entirely. So it's like converting your audience into advocates, and that is what Gen Zers can do the most.
That's right. The Gen Zers just don't want the brands to, just broadcast their content and all. They want to be part of events where they can interact. Basically, there has to be somewhere an access given to the people, other people who consuming that. So that should be kept in mind in community-based marketing. It can't be about you. Like also, even in an influencers, if you take an example, it can't be just they're coming to see the influencer. It could be the fan group also that they would have so many things in common. So they want access to that actually. So that should be kind of kept in mind when you're designing events and all.
Correct. So they are
Awesome.
looking for creative innovations and authenticity. So they form
Yes.
the tribes that way. If in a tribe the person finds his or her creative innovation and authenticity,
Mm.
then that person is happily part of that tribe. and then that tribe drives everything for the brands also. So now tribes are controlling brands, brands are not controlling tribes. That is the difference now.
That's right. And that's a very important point by Vrinda. Great. So we'll go to our next topic of discussion is about how brands are becoming, if you have all noticed, are becoming more and more socially responsible, not only in the campaigns, but even in terms of the standard operating procedures. And they communicate it very, clearly to the target audience in this case, which we Gen Z, because Gen Z they care about how the maybe the people are treated, the workforce, or the process that is followed in that particular manufacturing of the services or the products. And also to get deeper in this, I'll start with Rebecca.
Yeah, thanks, Nikhil. So, to talk about brands being more socially responsible or socially conscious, I would say it starts more because there is just a huge quantum of information itself that is available right now. Brands know that they need to be more transparent about their processes. They know that they can't hide things anymore, because far too often you've seen previously that there was always something that was going on underhandedly, and then when it comes out it becomes this huge scandal, right? So right now what brands are doing is that they're being transparent. With transparency also comes the need to align to different messages that are happening right now. I mean, let's face it, the world is very messed up right now, and you want to support a brand that is working towards doing something good rather than just being there and not really making an impact. So that's why I think that people right now in this generation, in generation Z, are focusing on brands that highlight this message. So whether it's having a cause of being, say, more responsible in sourcing, if it's being more responsible in the product itself that you're creating, all that stuff comes into play. To give you an example, I would say I probably highlight that later on when we're talking about different campaigns. But just talking about some brands that are doing this right now would be something like a Levi's. You're seeing everywhere that their jeans are made out of, people are making jeans out of recyclable materials. Nike is also making shoes out of recyclable materials. That's because right now everyone is well aware of the fact that there is way too much waste. There's things that are happening that's not good for the environment, and you want to support a brand that is working or making an active move towards changing that. In terms of products itself, you can see how more vegan products right now are becoming more popular, not just because of dietary restrictions, but rather people having more empathy towards animals, people having more empathy towards the environment itself, people being more aware of the whole consumption cycle and how that works, and why using that much of resources is not worth the packaged products. So I would say that these brands itself right now, they have an option of either sticking with one cause and furthering it, or making an impact in some sort of way. I think a lot of brands try to cover the fact by jumping on to a lot of different causes in different times, and that's where it gets a little muddled up. Like throughout June is considered Pride Month, and a lot of brands just hop onto the whole thing by just changing their logo to being a rainbow. When you don't actually support the whole message behind it, I think consumers can tell that you're not actually for the message, you're just kind of jumping onto the trend. And that's where I feel brands are kind of holding themselves back, because they don't know which message to stick to. So they try to dip their toes into a bunch of different topics, and that's when it gets bad for them itself. They're only hurting themselves.
That's right. Yeah, overdoing also is because I think when it started off being socially responsible, like communicating in your marketing messaging a few years back, then it you can't join every cause, and kind of it could the audience can also see through that. So awesome, Brinda, if you can take us through certain practices that have come in with brands for being socially responsible.
Very well spoken by Rebecca. And CSR is very important in this current scenario because Gen Zs are those buyers or purchasers who feel confident in buying a product only if they feel the brand is authentic, only if they feel that its ethics are aligned with their own. That is very important, the ethics part. And that is how they are more likely to give that brand the business. In one of the research or one of the surveys which I was going through, it was written that 70% of the Gen Z consumers try to buy their products from the companies which are ethical, and 65% of them wants to understand the origins of the product from where they are buying. So they want to understand how the product is built, what kind of machinery they are using, is it causing harm to the environment or to animals. If it is, they completely
Mm.
boycott it. That is what the current Gen Z generations are doing now.
So they are
uh,
putting in the efforts to do that research for the
Correct.
products
Yes.
or services that they're consuming, and that
Yeah.
is what I think. That's
And one very interesting fact about Gen Zs are that they are open to companies that have made mistakes. It is not that they completely boycott them if they have made some mistake. If the company comes up and then accept the mistakes and they tell them that what is the course of correction, Gen Zs have also empathy for them. They feel that this brand is authentic, for this brand has committed a mistake and then they have accepted it socially. So despite their inherent skepticism, Gen Z still got the nerves to buy in the future from such kind of brands. So many of the brands who were doing few mistakes past May, now they are improving it. Now they are actually, becoming more socially responsible, and this has happened when Gen Z has come into picture. In the time of millennials, such was not the scenario. One of the companies, IKEA, so now what they have done is that they have started turning the waste into some functional products. They have also built a foundation where they are working for, some crisis. They have made some crisis communities. They are providing water to people, electricity to people. So this way, IKEA's CSR has fit completely with the audience. And especially the young Europeans are so much committed to buy from this brand that they have actually exceeded all their marketing records, and all their sales have boomed a lot because of this. So taking the responsibility and working together with Gen Z can actually be a game changer for a brand. And I think that Gen Z always appreciate the efforts when it is in concern to the CSR of a company, and they always love to stay in long term relationship with them if they are actually understanding their corporate social responsibility.
That's right. Rebecca, if you can talk about I think a few years back when plastic was being, there even the government had targeted that it's not good for the environment. A lot of the waste is building up. Even before like the clampdown happened with the rules and the laws in terms of the plastic bags and all, there were a lot of brands which had made those kind of bags, whether it's cloth or you're using say paper bags. So and they really showcased in their packaging, how this is better for the environment and all. So your take on that, like they're taking the even before the government comes in or any other law, it's like they are themselves coming up and showcasing it to their particular audience.
Yeah, so I think, like I said, right, there's a wealth of information available right now. It isn't that, you're waiting for someone to publish a climate report, or you're waiting for someone to publish a law saying you can't use plastic to implement that change. So I'm sure that a bunch of companies before this itself would have realized the impact that the slowly building plastic accumulation is having. And so I'm guessing at least that time, the reasons for doing this wouldn't have been more publicity driven, but rather actually creating an impact. which is why, brands that have always been vocal about the stance that they take are generally more believable than the ones that are coming out quite recently and that are just jumping on the whole bandwagon. So you have brands, at least which had created these bags or cloth bags or whatever before that. They were not doing it because it was a trend. It clearly wasn't. People didn't really know why this whole thing was happening. And sooner or later, people are going to realize that with other things as well. Like, I think quite recently, the whole ban on plastic straws had happened, right? Before that, also, there were so many reports, there was so much around about how it was wasteful, but nobody really, realized it. But right now, after the whole thing happens, there are companies that try to capitalize on it. And that's when you know that it's not genuine, and that's it. At least I think in a majority of cases it might not be genuine, but that's people jumping on the bandwagon then right at the end. In terms of
Yeah, like
corporate social responsibility, yeah, sorry.
for a company like Starbucks, which I would then assume the Gen Z is the biggest target group there, they had then introduced those. I think they were the first to introduce the paper straws and all. They were not that convenient, but they brought it in because again, they had to create the impression in front of the Gen Z.
Right, right.
That's right. Awesome. So I'll go to Vrinda in terms of the pandemic and Corona. Have you observed anything, any great campaign with the brands that they have been really sensitive in? Because there have been certain times where a brand, outright having sales offers would have not been appreciated, right? And they have a certain awareness campaign with respect to Corona only run by them. So showing that responsibility in that sense, sensitivity. So anything you want to talk about in that sense?
I think mostly many brands have come up with safety measures and kind of plans where they are telling that how. Uh, so it comes both ways. So one way is like what kind of safety measures they are taking so that they to show that how much they care about their customers. And second part is the one where they are actually rewarding the effort of the COVID warriors who are working on the front line. So many brands took either of the two approaches. So during the time of pandemic, if we talk about the food startups, if we talk about Zomato or Swiggy, so these kind of startups have actually come up with something very creative to make their audience understand, because mostly the buyers of these startups like Zomato or Swiggy are Gen Z only, because these are the generation who don't really have time to cook for themselves because they are so busy doing things and that. So they were actually very much skeptical about buying food online or something. So that was the time when Zomato and Swiggy brought up the concept where they actually told them that how hygienic their packing is, and how they are treating their delivery boys, they are regulating their temperature and everything, so probably there is
Mm.
less risk to them and to their families. So I think that all the
Yeah.
delivery
And
section of.
within that, I think here they showcase like how they are even supporting their delivery boys at that time, and
Correct.
you can even say support them in the bill, pay a certain amount, and also they were kind of that was I would feel like more with the you could say the hygiene would be like obviously the people will not buy, but they went I think a step forward in the responsibility where they showcased that they were how they were supporting those delivery executives and how you can kind of also be part of this.
Exactly. And similarly, they were very helpful with the frontline warriors. So that comes both in a CSR also, and also a way to tell their consumers that we worry for people who are on the front line working for us. So for the doctors and for the nurses who were working consistently day and night, they had different sort of plans, or there were a lot of discounts for such people. Even food were given free for policemen, for nurses, doctors. So I think
Mm.
these ways brands have also learned to incorporate challenges the pandemic has really posed in front of all of us.
That's right. Great. We'll move to our next topic. Um, we are moving into more of gig-based economy. A lot of places, companies are preferring giving work on project basis rather than full-time jobs. So going forward, I think the Gen Z has to look at uh, having a particular skill set and then marketing the same. That's because in terms of full-time jobs, it might not be, going forward, there might not be that many that can support him. So if you have a personal, obviously there are so many things. There is an extra income also attached to it. You can work part time with people working from home. You can do something multiple, and aspirations also increase. You want to have multiple sources of revenue, and I think it's more safer also having, than just having one source of revenue. So how can they? But to get work, you have to build a personal brand. So for the Gen Z, what tips do our panelists have for that? So I'll start with Rebecca.
Thanks, Nikhil. So I would just want to start off with a story about that. When I first learned about the whole concept of personal branding, it was when I was just starting my first serious internship, which was in my first year of college. And what I realized then, and what I was told then, is that in order to make a name for yourself, you kind of need to be associated with something, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be something that you are supremely good at. It can be a bunch of different things, but maintaining that sort of brand itself is very important. So what I would suggest, or some tips that I would have, at least from my limited knowledge about the whole thing, one thing is maintain brand continuity. Like I said, even for brands and companies in general, aligning yourself to some things that strongly support your message. So don't, in the most basic sense, you don't have things that contradict yourself, right? So if you are a staunch supporter of something, let's say like anti animal cruelty, so you would generally be aligning your entire brand towards that. But in a more business sense, if you're supporting something like marketing, or if you want to align yourself to a marketing goal or to be a marketing professional, you tend to do things that support your industry experience in the same. You have to do things that support or showcase that you're vocal about the entire topic. And like I've mentioned on screen here, not everybody has to be an influencer. So I think a common misconception is personal branding equals being an influencer right now. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be the best at whatever you do, but you have to showcase that you've got enough industry knowledge to maintain your stance on the whole thing. I would say that, like, an example for the same thing is what I'm doing right now, coming on your show and talking about things that are marketing related. Like, I'm just 23 years old and I don't have the experience that either of you two have in the whole industry. But just, figuring out the topics that come, learning more each day, staying vocal about the whole thing, promoting the fact that I'm doing what I am, shows that builds credibility that you are someone in the industry. So I would say, the tips that I mentioned on the screen right
Yeah.
now,
Yet I would
document.
like to also emphasize that collabing is a very good strategy in building a personal brand. So till you become a major level brand or an influencer, whatever, you have to have a lot of free collaborations to, through each other's audience, you can kind of build your brand and have more reach. Yeah,
Yeah, precisely. It's the whole thing of cross pollinating. You need someone
yeah,
else to help you reach that sort of standard before you go or maintain your own, right? You need to align yourself with a brand or someone else who supports the same message, who helps you, build that sort of brand that you're looking for right now. So that's what that those are my 2 cents on the entire thing.
that's right. I'll go to Vrinda. Her tips for Gen Z.
So I have a little different sort of, I would say advice, I would say a suggestion, because I have also been part of this marketing thing, not directly, but yeah, you can say indirectly, because I have my own SaaS product and I know I interact with a lot of users every day and I understand their needs. So when we are putting some product in the market, how to brand label our product, I think there are certain things which we all should learn, or we should all try to imbibe, because the major users as of now of the SaaS products are Gen Zers, and in order to influence Gen Z, and if you want to reach them, there are certain things like you can master the art of Snapchat. So one of the article which I was reading, it said that Red Bull was one of the brand that had found huge success by reaching on Snapchat. So they could cover, a lot of Gen Z population with this. And there were a lot of Snapchat interactive filters also for high school and college final students also. So if somehow you think that you can master the art of Snapchat, it'll be good for your brand or business whatsoever it is, because it's a platform which our parents and not even older generations have totally understood. And I would say even I am not a great I don't have a great understanding in Snapchat, but yeah, it helps. Another thing is that Instagram is very much lively platform for every Gen Z. Everyone is there. It has a huge user base. So I think that user base can be coveted. People can really start putting stories, Instagram stories, and that is another way of exposing or showcasing your brand to people. You never know, like whosoever catches interest in it. Third thing is that we should all go mobile friendly. So whatever product you have, whatever brand you have, you should that thing should be accommodated on a mobile screen. So being a techie person, I know that there are applications, or maybe you can make a simple website, but then it is not very friendly, mobile friendly. So you should always
Okay.
spare some time to understand that if your website or your product is beautifully visible on mobile also, because Gen Z are the mobile
Yeah.
first generation.
Many people will be actually surprised that, like when I'm using, say, I'm using a design software, Canva or a video editing. There are
Right,
many people like in college today, they are preferring doing it on mobile, which I couldn't believe
I do it
initially,
on
but like,
mobile. Yes,
yeah, but
yes,
it
it
is
is
a
more
common
handy.
practice. Yeah,
Correct.
that's right.
Right. And we should also embrace multiculturalism. That is what I believe in. So if you have a product, if you have a brand, and if you cannot really help people understand that how this product can be used in diverse population, I guess then there is some flaw with the product. So there should be a, ethnic diversity in your brand or in your personal branding whatsoever it is, and you should be able to celebrate cultural diversity. That is another thing.
Yeah.
Best part about this Gen Z is the entrepreneurship, the spirit of entrepreneurship, and we mostly people believe in entrepreneurship in Gen Z. So millennials are little less behind them, but Gen Z are the one who has that entrepreneurial spirit. So I think the technology of power can change the world. So whatever branding you are doing, even if it is fabric branding, or it can be a small designing product also, or business. So if you don't go with the power of technology, I think there'll be some lagging. You'll always be behind. So that is one thing which you should be able to understand. And other thing is that knowing more Gen Z influencers. So influencer marketing is on the rise right now, and for your personal branding it is very important that you have some very loyal followers on your YouTube vlog. And as you have seen that initially brands were not so much into YouTube or Instagram or Facebook, but now you see the need of it, that every brand has
Mm.
to promote their YouTube channel, their Instagram channel, or Facebook channel. So social media is very strong now. We saw that Bachpan Ka Pyar. You see where that guy has walked to Badshah with the power of the social media. So social media is very
Mm.
important, and having your YouTube channels and all, they always help. So Gen Zers should keep in mind that if you
Yeah.
want to influence generation, if you
In
want to
this,
influence.
Vrinda, like what we like to say, like when this could also be a tip, like when in terms of a content being created, that innocence of that kid, or वो Power Orion, or the way she said it, or something like that. How these are getting more viral and all? Is it because of that innocence in them, and the way they are? That is also attractive to the audience, and they obviously would have some talent also they are showcasing, but that puts something vulnerability, and those qualities also should be there within your content.
Correct, correct. And another point, which would be the last one, which I want to add, is that you should know what is cool. Because big companies like Google have also conducted extensive study to understand that what Gen Z think is cool, and what they frequently call is it is lit, what you say that in a layman language. So I think that
Yeah.
it is important for companies to understand that what customers or what their employees also think that it's beautiful or unusual. So today unusual is the new beautiful, I would say. So you have to understand it while presenting your product or self branding. You should understand what is cool. So Pauri Hori, like you mentioned, many brands
Hmm.
kind of incorporated it. Many celebrities also, for self branding, they started doing Pauri Hori because they knew that this is the trending and this is the new cool with the Gen Z. So brands like YouTube, Amazon, Netflix, they are all behind this new cool thing where they are actually trying to explore that what is trending, what is the cool thing about the Gen Z. Just get through, they can actually lure in more people, more Gen Z people. So technology is the second coolest category at this point of time, and what is trending is the first cool thing, which we all should keep in mind when we are going for self branding. And last but not the least would be like talking to Gen Z. Whatever followers you have, whosoever adores you or have even visited your website or thing for the first time, I think you should try to build a communion between with them. If you are able to do it, I think that will always give you a lot of benefits. And maybe then there can be more word of mouth and things can go a little more organic. So that is the tips which I
Certainly.
would add. Yeah.
And Vrinda, don't you think like in the company's approach towards the employees has changed a lot because of Gen Z specifically? Like earlier, I mean, in terms of you didn't even have an access to social media within your office network, for example. And today, where there is, I mean, your work from home, you can do anything. So it's kind of you are, you know, in terms of they are not like expecting like to you be on the seat. Just you're warming a seat. You have to perform in. So there are ways in which they are seeing the amount of your productivity and also the what you're doing outside of your work is a different thing, right? So you are being open to that they can have a major. I've seen like many of these influencers, they have a full-time job obviously. So
Right.
that is also they're open to it. So these all these things are changing and influencing. So have you also noticed these major things in the companies brands they have to adapt to because this workforce is coming up, Gen Z?
Yeah, so they are now actually promoting that different skill set in an employee.
Hmm.
So suppose if I am working as a solution architect, I am working as a solution architect at a multinational company, and they know that I'm an author, they know that I'm an entrepreneur, and they are
Hmm.
aware like what kind of extracurricular activities I am doing every day. But then there is no
Hmm.
pressure as such that you have to leave your
Hmm.
job aside.
And that I think you also specify that that is also it's the full-time job that you are doing that in that company.
Exactly, that's a
Yes.
full-time job. Yeah. So companies
Yes.
are now open to it. They appreciate
Yes.
their employees' different skill sets, and they actually take a sense of pride in at such kind of extracurricular achievement. So I got times 40 under 40, and my company was super happy about it. They really appreciated me, and they never questioned that how could you do something from development or whatsoever you're doing your regular office stuff. So I think yes, companies have turned out more open to such kind of skill set of their employees, and they are promoting it. And a lot of extracurricular activities within the offices also help them in exploring themselves. So they are giving time for such kind of activities
Mm.
also.
Because
So
that is the major talented workforce which they will only lose out, right? If they are not
correct.
open to their how they work. Yeah.
Exactly. So now that's a very open kind of work culture. However, there are companies who are still on continuous surveillance, screen surveillance. They are
Mm.
checking if your employee is sitting on the seat, even if the person is not working. I think that such companies are somewhere at loss. And with such kind of
Mm.
attitude, I don't think so that they'll be able to survive with this Gen Z, which is coming into picture. So I think everybody has to change. And now this is the new trend, this is the new cool. People with multitasking and multi skill sets. So I think this is probably on this
That's
pre.
right. That's right. Rebecca, your views on how this the companies also have changed the way they are dealing with the employees, like the examples we gave?
Yeah, so I think, like Vrinda said, companies are more open to the things that you're doing apart from your normal 9 to 5 job. There are people who do take more of an interest. I mean, I can't comment too much on it because I've only worked in one company so far. But at least from my experience, in startups, they are generally more open with these sort of things. We have a couple of people in our sector itself, who are finance influencers who worked at my company, and they're super open with that. They support them. They're super supportive with things that you want to do, even if it's just um, say preparing for your higher studies, or even preparing for exams or taking certifications, things like that, that are not industry related or company related. So I would say there's good amount of support that's being given from those fronts.
That's great. Awesome. We'll go to our next topic of discussion is Gen Z, the people, they have been born into the internet. So what is influencing them? We have gone beyond a stage that influencers with just a certain aesthetic sense would kind of have a more of a following. They have to offer certain value, and they have to kind of really connect on a personal level also with a lot of their followers with technology and tools which are at disposal today. So, what are the influencers like? What does to be a Gen Z influencer today? What does it take? If you could share certain examples and all. So, I'll start with Rebecca.
Yeah, so I would say that, there are a lot of influencers right now. There are more people who are influencers who are in the Gen Z category right now, and people who do support the entire message also. They look at people who align with the same brand, right? Whatever we've been talking about so far. So I would say, like, the screen right now here, whatever I have is what I've seen as traditional influencers, or at least what I got, off a preliminary search. And this isn't necessarily what I've noticed in, in from a practical sense, or at least among my friend groups and things like that. I don't see too many people following the conventional influencers. Like, in general, I would say right now, just after the Tokyo Olympics, you have a lot of sports persons who are more influential in the community right now. Prior to this, you have a lot of, conventional actors or singers or, entrepreneurs or just famed celebrities like Kim Kardashian, Kylie Jenner, things like that. There are always people supporting them, but they are not necessarily the ones who drive the most influence right now in the community or among Gen Z in general. I would say that people are always looking towards these people to sort of give you guidance, or to sort of follow their lives, but it isn't necessarily someone you'd emulate after. So I would say still having like a lot of sports persons, or even different YouTubers right now are very popular. But influencers, in terms of like in the conventional sense, people who are promoting products and stuff, still tend to be the people who are highly famed actors, singers, celebrities. Those are the ones that I
That's right.
would say I would notice still come under the same thing. But right
That's
now,
right.
like if you're talking about influencer marketing, I would say right now companies are highlighting or showcasing a lot of local influencers to drive reach within local communities. So you have people in India itself who are doing content, who are publishing content in regional languages about the same age as any person in Gen Z right now, within their early 20s, late 20s, or even lesser than 20. There are people who are promoting regional languages, but you find bigger brands like Netflix and things like that who are sponsoring them just to reach local, a local audience. So I would say there's
That's right.
different classes of influencers right now. If you're looking worldwide, you would still find most of the American celebrities, and among a general population itself, you would find more of that. But from a local sense, you'd probably get a better picture into what are the different kind of influencers you're looking at here. financial influencers are currently bigger right now with the rise of crypto and everything. You have people who are supporting things like this, and it wouldn't have been there a couple of years ago. That time, at one point, it was only comedy that was driving, a huge following, or that was attracting a huge following.
Okay. Um, so I've noticed that the influencers who have really made it big, like they were started off as nano, and then today they are celebrity. If you see, most of them they have been like homegrown. They have not had any kind of a backing, and they've made it big. So that is kind of an aspirational thing that also that connected with, because most of the audience is trying to make it right. So they and is having limited means, so they connect. So that's like a shining light there that yeah, this guy is great. So if you see like Bhuvan Bam or Ashish Chanchalani, because I'm talking because there is a for the entertainment influencers only, there's the more potential to become a celebrity influencer, right? Compared to the other streams and all, and that's the famous like in terms of if you're giving an example. This is what I've observed that that creates that aspirational quality, and they have come up. Like so, if you see compared to many, if you take a star kid or something like that, they are not like breaking into the celebrity bracket, unless they do really well. If the people
Right.
are becoming more smarter in that sense and really recognizing what value they are giving and that aspirational aspect that is there. So that's right. So Vrinda, if you would like to talk about influencers having a major impact on Gen Z.
I have a very diverse opinion on influencers, I'm sorry to say. So there are like more than 20 million influencers in picture, and every influencer in India especially starts with a feeling that he or she is gonna become popular just like next door influencer. So whatever
Hmm.
little knowledge we have, we start doing things and we call ourselves influencers. So I think this is a mad race right now which is going on. So earlier, like Rebecca mentioned that there were influencers which was only restricted to comedy, but now influencers have come up in terms of technology, cryptocurrency, and there are a lot of even relationship gurus are in picture. They are also
Hmm.
called as influencers. So I think that influencers have
Hmm.
this market is on the swell, they are rising, there's no doubt about it, but there is still a need to classify the wannabe influencers to original influencers. That is one thing which I feel. And so the phase of influencer marketing 1.0 is over. Now we have moved to marketing 2.0, and this there is this very transactional kind of relationship between the brands and the creators, which has totally worked off with different kind of campaigns which are going on. So
Hmm.
I would say that if you talk about influencers, there are so many different influencers now, and if a brand really wants to choose or pick one influencer for them, they really need to understand like what kind of values or what kind of understanding that influencer has, and then they can align their product value with that particular influencer. So I think that influencer market is growing, but still there is
Hmm.
lot of sorting needs to be
That's
done
right.
in this particular
Yes.
domain. One
Yeah,
of the
because it
examples
shouldn't like.
is TikTok. You can see, right?
Okay.
TikTok, it steers demands for authenticity. But like, how authentic are the influencers on TikTok? No, we really need to understand that. So the videos are going
Hmm.
viral. People are becoming famous overnight on the platforms. But what is the authenticity of the content which is coming on TikTok? So TikTok also has to, so now though it is banned in India, but the way it was soaring and the people were
Hmm.
really frustrated with the kind of
Yeah,
content
now
which
there
is.
are a lot of other apps.
Yeah,
So
correct.
yeah. Hmm.
So I think that influencer market still needs to be sorted very much with
That's
the
right.
current things into picture. I am not really sure about what other countries are doing, but especially in India, I see
Hmm.
every neighbor of mine becoming an influencer, social influencer, with the very little knowledge of whatsoever they have.
That's
So
right. So I think here it's up to the brands where they have to kind of safeguard themselves. So just
Yeah,
obviously can't look at just the followers. And in my
right.
last session, we had covered a lot of things where we can kind of do a review from the social media quality of the audience as well as the actual influence. Like, are they listening to what you are saying or they are just checking you out? So
Majorly, the
basically,
listening part is
yeah.
measured by the amount of followers and the kind of engagement users are
Mm,
getting making on your account,
mm,
on your social media account. So I think right now that is the only parameter which comes into picture. Otherwise, I have seen that the content is not really good, but then still there are engagement. Now we
mm,
have 130 crore of population, and in this
mm,
130 crore, even 2% of people are following you. That means you have like more than 1 million followers, right?
mm.
So brands cannot really take that decision on the basis of your
2%
followers.
of the major movie stars also will come under like say 5%, like if it's like
Huh,
5
exactly.
crores. Yeah.
Correct, correct. So this thing is in
Yeah.
boom right now, but there, I think in a time to come, there'll be some regulations which needs to be done, because we keep on hearing even celebrities like Badshah purchase a lot of followers, and now they try to rectify their image in the market by
Mm.
sponsoring the education of a boy who sang a very average sort of song. So that is all promotion kind of thing which is going into picture. So it's really difficult to identify the
Mm.
influencers in an influencer market. That is what I am actually
That's
denoting.
right. Yeah, because even in that controversy, a thing came out that how many paid views are there actually that you can buy, so you don't know what is organic, and that
Right.
creates a really misleading thing about your stardom basically to the audience. So because obviously you are serving out, YouTube advertising is there, YouTube
Now there
putting
are a
out
lot
your,
of good
yeah,
influencers as well, but they are not able to make that reach compared to those paid reaches. What is the
mm,
problem? I'm not
yeah,
really sure. That is still not very understandable to me. But I think there
yeah,
needs to be some rules and regulations in this, because with the
yeah.
Gen Z coming into picture, influencer marketing is growing
Yeah.
big.
So yeah,
Actually,
like if you have a lot of money, like every post you can promote it. So you
yeah,
it's like misleading because you're seeing that many views or
correct.
maybe engagement also there are ways in which that is done. But
Correct. I have seen the
so
shittiest
yeah,
content on internet, literally. I'm telling you. And that
mm,
shittiest content has like more than 1 lakh views or 2 lakh views. Now, what
mm,
do I say? I feel a little
yeah,
ashamed that, okay, what kind of audience are we gathering with
yeah.
all this?
And many
So,
of these are pitched to brands and companies directly also that I'm getting this much of following or this is my engagement. So it
right.
is that's where you have to kind of safeguard yourself or in the various techniques within that. Awesome. So we'll come to certain campaigns that have been specifically for designed for Gen Z, keeping Gen Z in mind. We'll just go through them with some certain good messages also within these campaigns, which will be very interesting to the audience. So we'll start with the BLM campaign of Ben and Jerry's, and Rebecca will take us through it.
Yeah, so the reason I chose this campaign is because it's fairly recent, and Ben and Jerry's itself blew up a lot after the whole campaign and stuff. This happened just last year. Now I know in India, yes, Ben and Jerry's is not a familiar thing to us. I'm not sure if it's a solely American brand, but right now I guess that's my opinion of it. I'm not too
Yeah.
aware of the brand
It is
itself. It's in
more in the uppity audience, in the elite, like the food chains. It is available, yeah, and it is being sold, yeah.
Yeah. So
Mm,
right now, at least what Ben and Jerry had done for the entire Black Lives Matter campaign, it wasn't a campaign that they launched explicitly, but rather they made a few changes to a couple of their products itself to reflect their sentiment about the entire outrage of the whole thing. So the Black Lives Matter campaign, which happened last year after the whole, the incident with George Floyd and whatever happened around it, the obvious tragedy, made a lot of people in the US particularly very vocal about the entire issue, right? Versus Ben and Jerry's, even though they were a company that actively voiced out against the whole, the killing and whatever happened, they were a company that's been very vocal about their activism for a very long time. So you wouldn't expect something from a company that is like an ice cream brand. But what they do is they voice out their opinions through their products through very simple ways. It's through humor and through puns. So as you can see on the screen here, the Justice Remixed is what they had done during the whole Black Lives Matter time. They just released a simple flavor, made a couple of puns on their ice creams. They have had another one for, the whole Save the Environment thing where they called the product Save Us World. And it's through simple things like this that they show their support. But over and above this, what Ben and Jerry's do is they have a podcast where they actively voice out injustices, where they talk about different injustices happening. In fact, a lot of popular, very impactful quotes, I would say, comes from these these podcasts itself that they're launching. So I think it's a great example of how brands have maintained that continuity, like we spoke about earlier. They have a history behind it. They've already, voiced out opinions about things like this before. It isn't something that just happened. Meanwhile, the rest of America and a lot of other brands during that time were, doing the whole black dot of solidarity. And that was something that just happened to be like a trend. You don't know how many companies actively, did something beyond just, show their solidarity to the whole issue. So apart from this, like I would say in general, Ben and Jerry's has like a good history of being socially just, about voicing out their opinions, having humor as something that they use to reach the audience, the right audience. It's something that allows them to give out the message without sounding too preachy. Because I think at this point, everyone has got an opinion. People are very much trying to voice their opinion. But like we mentioned, empathy is something that is driving this generation. And at the same time, you don't want, the message that you're giving across. You have to also understand where the other person's coming from, at least for most of the cases, right? So what they do is they just push it off in a lighter sort of way. Another thing that they do is they target right influencers. With a big brand like this, the influencers that you're looking at are people who do have a very broad reach. So like they've put there, they have like a picture of the ice cream with Jimmy Fallon on it, and the ice cream is called the Tonight Dough. It's something that they have reached out to because of the popularity of the brand. So naturally, smaller brands don't have this reach and they can't obviously target influence on this scale. But at least I would say Ben and Jerry's is doing this very successfully.
Do you think this is similar to Rebecca? This is similar to what Amul is doing basically in their campaigns and messaging and all?
I think Amul is also doing a really great job, but I would say, a lot of Amul's social messaging comes like in your newspapers, right? Or in your social media where you see them have like a small blurb. It is very similar. They are using humor to drive across a very solid point. I think Ben and Jerry's have gone a step further to, rebrand their products itself to match what their messaging is. So it isn't just on your social channels, you're actually reflecting that in your product. And I think that gives a powerful message to a consumer that if you're willing to, change a product or make a product, especially to support this message, it does mean you believe in it. It's not just something that is temporary on your social media, which is why I think, having people who just sort of put, a simple rainbow colored logo on their social media and take it down after a month, they don't have the impact that you would probably have with, say, like a company who launches an entire line of pride-based products, or who's actively doing something to support the message, further the message rather.
That's right. Because we are at the stage of digital literacy where you can kind of look through these things. So you have to be, conscious and put in efforts, like you said, a full chain of products. That shows, I mean, any person will kind of, because it's not for like a moment marketing thing where it's just done at that time to be, in the public eye or, in that conversation. Awesome. So, We'll go to our next campaign, that is Sunte Ja from Spotify. So we'll have a look at the video, and then Vrinda will take us through it.
इस स्पीड पे मैच तो गया।
डैड, आपने ये वाला सुना है?
I can.
Watch this. And this one?
I love it. I got this.
स्पॉटिफाई के 50 मिलियन सॉन्ग्स के साथ लेटेस्ट प्लेलिस्ट चलाते जा। स्पॉटिफाई सुनते जा। डाउनलोड द म्यूजिक ऐप फॉर फ्री।
So Spotify, we were talking about freemium model. We had discussed that, and Spotify is one such example. Best part about Spotify is that they entered India in 2019, and with their entry in India, I think they have successfully beaten Apple Music and JioSaavn and a lot of other music platforms in India. Now, the best thing from this advertisement, Sunte Ja, what we saw that Spotify celebrated India's, multilinguistic approach. They led this TV campaign nationally in different languages. That was one thing, and at the same time, they did it on TV, on OTT, on digital platforms, and also on OOH. With this effort, they were able to cross over 1 million views on social media in just 12 hours of the launch of this advertisement, and there were approximately 63K engagements, which is very much comparable to a Bollywood film trailer if you talk about them, something of that at the same time. So now this campaign is featuring Anil Kapoor and Ishan Khattar, and that is something which we can call millennial and Gen Z together on one screen. When we say that there is a fine line between millennial and Gen Z, it's very easy to approach Gen Z which with this kind of approach, and they were successfully able to garner like over 50 million views on YouTube after this. So creating awareness campaign of such kind where they are actually calling out the Gen Zs and asking them to spare some time out of their digital world or virtual world, helping the family with chores. If you are not even doing it physically, maybe you can keep them entertained and keep talking to them. A spirit of get togetherness with friends, with families, and making some new beginnings. That was the main agenda of this advertisement. And so Spotify always wanted that their playlist and campaigns should go very fresh to the audience, and they should love it, they should have fun with whatever playlist they are creating for their audiences. So this was the most important, I would say that one of the most important cultural moment for all the users when this ad campaign was released. So I would say that this is the kind of ad where Anil Kapoor is acting as a well loved father, and Ishan Khattar is a rising star. So having them both in the ad actually lend them a credibility, and the message was clear. So for a market where we have a price consciousness in India, there is a great advantage if there is something which comes for free. So when we talk about Apple Music, there are a lot of subscriptions and a lot of enrollment, and there are a lot of restrictions. So when Spotify came into picture, such kind of restrictions were really lifted away. So this kind of influenced Gen Z. So they were happy with what Spotify was doing. And Spotify even surveyed, and they found that if 48% of the Gen Zers were so much attracted or so much caught up by this content that they engage themselves more into audio and podcast comparatively to the videos and the visuals which are actually running on YouTube or other kind of platforms. So this is a kind of exposure which they have given. Most of their surveys also said that they could easily target the kids from school and colleges, so they could see that kids, because now the Gen Zs are the one who get mobile phone at the age of 10. So mobile phone is no big deal for them because their parents are really concerned and they want to stay connected. So with those mobile phones, they were able to, drive the Gen Z. They were able to capture their time where they are going from their homes to their schools. That time duration, they are focusing more on Spotify, listening to the song of their taste. So they actually found that younger generation are seeking Spotify as more trusted medium, not only to find music but also to find news and also inspiration. So they saw that there was a decline in the radio. People were listening more to Spotify. People were listening news on Spotify. And with this influencer thing coming into picture, they also opened the podcast for influencers where people could record their content, and that can easily propagate to the Gen Z population. So we can see that there is a whirlpool of visual distractions and screen fatigue. That is what Spotify has tried to do through this, where they are actually reducing the screen time of people and helping them focus more on better things through audio. So it is like a kind of kind of difference, or kind of, you can say, improvement they are trying to bring to help the Gen Z relieve their stress and help them improving their mental health. So I think 74% of the millennial agree that audio is a mental health resource, and the 71% of Gen Zers believe that audio is healing. So with this, Spotify has been able to capture a lot of Gen Zers market, and they have been doing something like they have been uh, kind of promoting this product through influencers and celebrities. Also, I would say young celebrities, young singers coming into picture. They are opening the avenues to new singers, so people have access to different kind of different languages, songs in different languages, or maybe podcasts in different languages. So this way they have easily absorbed the Indian culture, and they are actually getting accustomed to what Indians need more. So before, they were in loss before
Okay.
launching this ad campaign. They were in sheer loss, but after this ad campaign, I think they had done tremendously good, and they have been able to beat the already persisting
Right.
products like Apple
So in
Music.
Vrinda, this would come under inclusivity also, where anyone can start a podcast on Spotify. Like then it
Right.
depends on its popularity. How like earlier, I don't think they used to give access to everyone to have that.
No.
So,
Right. So they got a
that's why
platform.
nowadays, yeah,
Yeah.
that's right.
And
We
Spotify also
noticed.
came up with the application named as Anchor. If most of the people must be knowing.
Hmm,
So to ease the making of the podcast for the people, and they can easily upload it on Spotify for free, and then it can reach people. So this way they have created a revolution, and they have specifically targeted Gen Z for that.
that's right. Great. We'll go to our next campaign. जीतने की आग और Thanda Dimaag from Mountain Dew. When this was when the Mountain Dew ice was launched.
जीतने की आग और ठंडा दिमाग तो नई माउंटेन ड्यू आइस का बर्फीला घूंट लगा, फिर बर्फ सी लगेगी हर अग्नि परीक्षा। नई माउंटेन ड्यू आइस, लगाओ बर्फीला घूंट।
So my thing in this campaign is more of the messaging in it, like because as a Gen Z, like obviously there are so many opportunities out there which you should have the fire in you to do it, but then somewhere you have to also have a cool mind or a demeanor so that you can deal with the stress that come in it. So that is somewhere where I feel just in terms of the tagline was very kind of attractive in this, and it really connected with a lot of Gen Z in this. So this, I think, both the quality, fire and ice quality, has to be in you. Only then you can kind of fulfill your dreams or your goals, and also awesome. So we'll, I think, quickly just go through all the remaining campaigns. So we'll start with, yeah, Inside Out campaign. Rebecca can take us through that.
Yeah, so just to give you a bit of a brief of what it is, Inside Out is actually a movie that Pixar came out with a few years ago. It's actually been around for quite some time, and when they were advertising the movie, they did the normal standard advertisements, here and there on your bus stops, your social media, things like that. But what's special about this entire campaign is that so just to give you a brief about the movie is about the different feelings that lives inside a little girl's head. So these different emotions and feelings, like you can see on screen, the sadness emotion, there's a happiness, there's an angry, and these are all different emotions that are playing with each other and controlling what the girl feels. So what they've done through this movie and through the campaign itself is they've created a framework to talk to children about their mental health, about how it's important for children at a very young age to understand the emotions that they're feeling. And even though I think Pixar came up with the story because they wanted to highlight something like this, a very complex topic for a younger generation, a lot of different psychology professors and a lot of people in the industry itself found that this movie particularly actually helped a lot of people, not just in their younger age but also in the current generation Z, the people who are in their early 20s, the people who are in their late teens, who are still trying to find out what is it that happens inside your head. Is it okay to feel these sort of ways? Things like mental health right now have, it's not new, again, it's not a new concept, it's just a concept that people are more vocal about right now, because it's finally come to people's attention that this is a real problem, that it is akin to something like a physical sickness. So the film itself takes a complex topic and they're breaking it down for the general masses in a very nice storyline. I think that's a great way to showcase something like this to a larger audience, because you're highlighting the capability of storytelling. You're doing it through a story. You're not just
And
being
it's also a
preachy.
good thing in this that the audience for this kind of movie obviously will be a very children, I would say, between say 5 or 15 and all. And you are talking about mental health in the campaign, so they are also, it's a good age to kind of know about these things and be. So I think this was a very good. I mean, the way they have approached it.
Right. So because I think, like, naturally, when you're exposed to something at a young age, you normalize it a lot sooner, right? It's harder
Yeah.
for you to pick up new things as you grow older. So this is something that takes a controversial issue also. A lot of people don't fully grasp the concept of it. A lot of people are still of the mentality that mental health is just something that happens and people are just weak, or not mentally strong, XYZ reasons, whatever they may be. So this is something that is what would be considered normally a children's movie that is applicable to people across ages, whether you're looking at it as a parent, understanding, okay, these are the things that go on in your child's head, or you're looking at it from a child's perspective, thinking that, oh, these are the emotions that happen to me, or even as a young adult, you're looking at it thinking that, okay, this is a concept that I know is very popular, and it's so popular that Pixar has chosen to highlight it. A big brand like that has chosen to make something about this topic, so that itself drives home a message that it is something important. So when you're a big brand like Ben and Jerry's, like Pixar, you have to strongly align your goals, right? You need to be very clear also about the message that you're looking at. There's not a lot of room for you to contradict yourself within the same message, right? Or even misrepresent it. So if you're taking something like mental health and you're a big brand, you can't afford to misrepresent what it is, what's happening there. So I think that, yeah, campaigns like this are super important to this generation, because you don't have a lot of room to even pick it apart. There's nothing that you can fault in this. And this, unfortunately or fortunately, we are a generation that do pick things apart. We try to break down what this entire concept is. We try to look for things that, might be wrong with something just in order to maybe highlight it a little better. And one of these campaigns, like Pixar's Inside Out campaign, is not something you can actually fault.
That's it. I think very good choice of campaigns by Rebecca here. We'll go to the next campaign, that is the Voice of Hunger campaign by Swiggy. We'll go through their video first.
Instagram have come out with the best feature audio messages.
Alright, so the big daddy of internet challenges is here.
It's called Swiggy's Voice of Hunger challenge.
Voice of Hunger. If you can get your waveform on Instagram DM to look like a food item.
This kind of looks like a nacho, right?
1 kebab, 2 kebab, 3 kebab, 4 kebab.
आपको उनको DM करना अगर उनको पसंद आ गया.
To win a year's worth of food vouchers from Swiggy.
Free food tastes better. Very good.
अरे यार आप लोगों ने देखा क्या हैशटैग स्विगी वॉइस ऑफ हंगर चैलेंज ताबड़तोड़ है यार.
There were multiple entries. There were entries on pressure cookers, on whistles, on cats and so on.
According to the brand, they've been receiving an average of over 50 DMs per minute.
So Swiggy evidently hit 10,000 entries on day one. And I think that soon became 20,000, 30,000 and 150,000. Wow.
So as you can see, very funny and very interesting kind of ad campaign by Swiggy. And they had launched this ad campaign in collaboration with Dentsu Web Chutney. So that's a marketing company in Gurgaon. So most of the figures were actually given. This was totally clear by this ad campaign. So they launched it in February 2019, and Swiggy is pretty much new compared to Zomato. They entered in the market in 2016, and Zomato is way back 2008 old. So Swiggy has a great come in the market compared to Zomato, and with this particular advertisement they had created a different kind of madness in the country. And you'll be amazed to know that not only in country, they could easily reach countries like Canada, Germany, and there were a lot of other countries whom they never delivered. So they were also in this challenge, Voice of Hunger. So I would say that outstanding year was 2019 for Swiggy, where they had multitude of marketing campaigns, but the one which rocked their social media was the Swiggy Voice of Hunger, where they had a concept which says that even hunger has a voice. Even you can identify hunger just through voice of a pressure cooker, voice of crunching of nachos, or it could be anything. So they invited participants to send Swiggy a voice note via DM, wherein the shape of the sound wave they created while sending the voice note had to resemble the shape of a dish which Swiggy had posted. So the shape of the dishes which they had posted were kebab, shawarma, fish, nachos, and 21 stacked pancakes. So these were the 5 dishes which were given by Swiggy, and they wanted their participants to produce such kind of shapes just through the voices. And now I would say that millennials were the one who got into this, where they were producing sounds of different kinds. It was a Gen Z who was so attracted with this ad campaign.
My audio is coming through.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
There might be an issue of mine, but it's not from your end. It's not coming through Vrinda.
Is it coming? Am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear her.
Okay.
Sure.
Am I
Yeah,
audible
you
to
can
you,
carry
Nikhil?
on. I'll just work it out.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's what I was saying that so these five dishes which Swiggy had brought into picture, they said that if you can do it, you are entitled to get a Swiggy voucher where you're gonna free food for entire year. So this, as we can see in the campaign, needless to say, Swiggy had an outstanding response. They had approximately 1.5 lakh DMs. And out of 1.5 lakh, they said that 80% of the DMs were from the Gen Z. In just 10 days, they brought in influencers. There were influencers like Rohan Joshi, one of the influencer name I remember, and there were many more who participated in this challenge to help them boost their campaign and overall brand awareness. Now, through the campaign which was only focused on Instagram. So you see how they are targeting Gen Z. They did not launch this campaign on YouTube or any of the other channels, that was solely on Instagram. With Instagram, they could garner so much of traction that even Instagram had to block their ad campaign 11 times. That is big deal, 11 times. So there are a lot of interesting hashtags also which went viral through these campaigns, and because of this advertisement they could raise awareness about food safety, about food security. And the company Denzu also swept few Canes Lions Award because of this campaign. So Swiggy has, in a way, very successfully understood the Gen Z market, and just kind of they utilize their core user base, I would say. So Gen Z is the core user base at this point of time for Swiggy, and this has really increased their online engagement because I think more than 1000, there was a surge in their followers or in their fan following. So this actually created a memorable experience for them, and around the brand also, like how much they care about creativity, how much they care to bring something new for people so that from their regular boredoms they can participate in such kind of activities. And it all started with a very gibberish kind of tweet which they did. It was something like blue blah blee blue. They started with this, and which went on trolling that why Swiggy has done a tweet of this sort. Later they explained that this particular tweet which we have done, it is the sound of the food. So fans were so much introduced to these hilariously innovative ways to get their voice notes to resemble food shapes and win a ear's worth of food. So approximately 100 comedians, musicians, rappers, actors, DJs, they all came along, and even radio channels like Big FM also came into picture. Young publishers like Scoop Whoop also kind of helped them in propagating this because it was very much kind of interesting. It actually led to a social explosion, I would say, because they generated approximately 16 million plus social impressions. So this was a huge success for Swiggy, and thanks to this ad campaign which they did, they were able to reach many Gen Z users, and they could actually turn the market towards them, because there was a time when Zomato was the sole market owner. So with this ad campaign, they actually proved that creativity is also something very very important aspect which can attract a lot of Gen Z to your product. So
Right.
that was the learning from Swiggy.
I'm very sorry. There was some major technical issue from my end. We'll have to wrap up a little bit quickly, but there's just one campaign. I'll take you all through that, and then
Sure.
we will have it.
काम कमाल की फुटबॉल कोच। फेसबुक पे अपने प्लेयर्स के वीडियोस डालते डालते वो इतनी पॉपुलर हो गई कि कई लड़के तो क्रिकेट छोड़ के फुटबॉल सीखने आने लगे।
जब इंडिया खेलेगा ना, तब बात बनेगी।
वीडियोस के दो फायदे, ग्राउंड पे बेहतर गेम और फेसबुक पे फेम। और वही फेम सिलेक्टर्स को आखिर लद्दाख खींच ही लाया। रिंचन के 2 प्लेयर्स इंडिया कैंप के लिए सिलेक्ट हुए। और इतना ही नहीं,
नेशनल एकेडमी में असिस्टेंट कोच बनेंगी।
Sure, sir.
दिल खोल के तो देखो, दुनिया तुम्हारे साथ है। फेसबुक।
Great. So this campaign was by Facebook and Dunya Tumhare Saath Hai. This is like focusing at people connecting how basically connections are so important in Facebook when you make to grow. Maybe it could be your own brand or your business. So this was, I think, very apt at this time, where at that with the pandemic the mood of the nation was down also. So how you can network more with Facebook and then have various revenue streams you can generate through that. Firstly, just growing your personal brand. So they are showcasing in this how she used it to showcase her skills, and then how I think she got a job as a coach in the football team. So this, I think, was very positive campaign. They had various mini, videos that were made, which were, I think, one was related to one girl starting books. I think the library. Truck library that was there. So they were very inspiring stories that was showed by Facebook, and how making these connections, which is another message to Gen Z, that they should look at making deeper connections on Facebook than just the follower or the like or the people engaging with it. It should be more like here also, like more one-on-one interaction, free collabs happening, and anything could come out, right? If you leave it open and positive, then good things also happen. So awesome, that was a great campaign. So we'll wrap up this. It has been a great session here with on the Independence Day. So we'll just with an interesting, I think, question. I'll start with Vrinda. Like anything you want to in the Independence Day tell the Gen Z. Anything you want to, any message you want to give them?
The message is, I think Gen Zs are very smart and they won't pay heed to whatever message we give them. We give them unless until they really identify like if that really relates to them. But this Independence Day, I would say that if you really talk about freedom, if you really talk about getting free or being on your own, I think responsibility is something which we Gen Z are somewhere kind of forgetting. We are responsible for others also, because people are so free will or freebie that they don't really care that whatever action they take can have a repercussion also. So I think that we should be a little focused on that, like whatever we are doing, it can impact others also, be it influencer, even if you're influencer or whatsoever. So on this Independence Day, when we talk about freedom, the responsibility is one factor which should always keep in mind. That is my message to all the Gen Zs.
Awesome. It was great having you for this session, Vrinda. You had given a
Thank
great
you,
inputs
Nikhil.
and very
Thank you,
interesting
Rebecca.
campaigns also.
Yeah.
Thanks,
And the
Vrinda.
same question to Rebecca. Her message to Gen Z on Independence Day.
Yeah, I would say sticking with the same freedom and independence theme, like, embrace the fact that we do have independence in a lot of ways. We have the ability to be vocal, we have the ability to showcase our opinion, and it does matter. Everyone's opinion does count. But like Vrinda said, use it for good. Don't use it to just be another negative voice out in the crowd. Extend support, be more independent that way. And I would say, like, in general, Gen Z has the capability to go way beyond what's already been done so far. So I would say, with that freedom that we do have and the roads that are paved for us, we can make a lot of good impact through it. It doesn't just necessarily have to be from a social media standpoint or from even marketing in general. It can be whatever. We're talking so much about social impact and so much about how people in this generation Z want to further themselves to establish more of a mark in the universe, want to create more of an impact, and we do have the freedom to do that, so we can make use of it.
That's right. Yeah, I would like to say that the Gen Z, they should explore a lot of new things. Like that is how you get to your passion. You discover your calling if you are exploring different things, and the time if you are in college and all, you should do that. Different kind of maybe internships do, or participate like sports also, and events, and also this really builds up the personality. And I think going forward, your more than just the superficial things, your personality, your even EQ, emotional quotient, will be more important than your IQ. So you should know interpersonal skills going beyond, and how to deal with people, communication skills. So it's just not restricted to if you can speak a language well. It is beyond that, how you communicate and have a good interaction, feel good, create a feel good feeling with the people around you. So a lot of these skills, I think, they can inculcate, and which will be beneficial to them going forward. So it has been a great session. Thank you everyone for joining us. Please subscribe to the Marketing Intelligence YouTube channel, and a lot of interesting content coming up. So I'll take your leave. Thank you everyone. Take care. See you.
Thanks, Nikhil. Thanks, Vrinda.
Bye.
Bye.